Hi everyone, I'm here today to talk about Shakespeare. In particular, a new publishing initiative by Vintage Books, and they are doing the Hogarth Shakespeare series. This is ridiculously exciting. I am a big fan of Shakespeare, as many bibliophiles are. I studied quite a number of his plays both at school and at university. And I also really love retellings of Shakespeare, whether that is in film, new adaptations on the stage, or like with this project in novel form. So today I'm going to talk about the Hogarth Shakespeare, and in particular the first one in this project, which is The Gap of Time by Jeanette Winterson. Vintage are not paying me to talk about this, but they did send me a free advanced reader's copy of The Gap of Time. I'm just gonna tell you about the other books that are up and coming because I'm really excited about these. First of all, we've got The Winter's Tale retold by Jeanette Winterson, which is The Gap of Time. Then we've got Othello retold by Tracy Chevalier, who she wrote The Girl with the Pearl Earring. We've also got Macbeth retold by Joe Nesbo. I imagine he would be quite good with Macbeth. We've got The Taming of the Shrew retold by Anne Tyler, which is interesting because I thought she had said that A Spool of Blue Thread was her final novel, but that's alright. Then we've got The Merchant of Venice, and unsurprisingly they've chosen Howard Jacobson to retell that story. Jacobson often talks about Judaism in his works, so he seems like an appropriate person to retell The Merchant of Venice. Then we've got Hamlet, and Gillian Flynn is doing Hamlet. I think she will do a really good job of this. I'm hoping that it will be a sort of multiple perspective and that we might hear a bit from Ophelia. She's a character who I really want to know more about, basically. Then we've got King Lear, retold by Edward St. Alban. I haven't actually read any of his work. And then we have the one that I'm perhaps the most excited about. Margaret Atwood is doing a retelling of The Tempest. That's about as good as it gets. So The Gap of Time, like I said, is a retelling of The Winter's Tale. The Winter's Tale is not a story that I was especially familiar with. I've never read the play, and if I had had time, I probably would have read the play before reading this. But very helpfully, at the beginning of this, we have a section called The Original. And so it basically just gives you a little synopsis of the play so that you can kind of flip back if you're not that familiar with it. Also, some of the names have been changed, or not completely changed, but altered a bit. So for instance, we have the character of Hermione in the play, and then in Winterson's version, we have a character called Mimi. So they're calling these cover versions of the original Shakespeare. I think that's kind of interesting because they're not calling them retellings exactly, even though they are retellings. I think that goes to show that they are still structurally the same. Some of the smaller things, kind of the little ornamentations have been altered, and obviously the time period has been changed as well, so this is set in more or less the present day. It's actually set just after the financial crash, so that's kind of the catalyst for a lot of the events in this novel. Winterson also deals with race a lot. She's made some of the characters of different racial backgrounds. It's Jeanette Winterson, so she plays around with gender a bit and sexuality, especially in this one. And I think that's a really clever interpretation of this play, actually, that two of the characters are gay or are bisexual, and that is something that has ramifications down the line as well. The Winter's Tale is a play that is kind of in two parts. You've got one in one time frame and then one, 17 years later? It's 17 years later in the novel, so we see these ramifications on the next generation. The other thing that has to be noted is that the writing is just so beautiful, which is not surprising because Jeanette Winterson's prose is stunning, and that's what I really love about her. Also that she plays around with sexuality and gender, but her writing is very compelling and very lyrical, and I get the impression that she's woven in some lines from Shakespeare. It would be really interesting to actually do a comparison of this text with the original, and I'm sure people will be doing that in years to come with all of these books. So those are just some of my thoughts on The Gap of Time and the Hogarth Shakespeare project in the comments below. Tell me what your favourite Shakespeare is and which modern author you would like to see retell it. Like I said before, The Tempest and Margaret Atwood have got to be up there on the list. But yeah, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on what would make a good combination. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!